The night my son asked me to sign my life away, there was a chocolate cake on the table and 20 glowing candles smiling back at me. Not because I turned 20, of course. Those days are long gone. It was my 70th birthday. 1 candle for each decade and another 10 for extra blessings, my daughter-in-law said with that pretty little smile that never reached her eyes. Before I begin, if you care about stories like mine, please like this video and subscribe. It means more to me than you know, more than I can put into words, honestly. The living room smelled of roasted chicken and store-bought flowers. My grandchildren were giggling in the corner, phones in their hands, filming me as I closed my eyes to make a wish. My son Daniel stood right behind my chair, one hand resting on my shoulder like a gentle weight. "Make a good one, Ma," he said. "Big changes are coming." I should have heard the warning in his voice, but a mother's heart, it hears what it wants to hear. I took a shaky breath, felt the warmth of the candles on my face, and wished for something simple. "God," I whispered inside, "just let my children stay united. Let them remember I did my best." When I opened my eyes, everyone clapped. My daughter-in-law, Alina, rushed forward with a neat folder in her hand instead of a gift box. "This is your real present, Mama," she said. "Daniel worked so hard on this for you. It's just some paperwork to make things easier as you get older." She slid the folder in front of me. The room suddenly felt colder. Inside were documents, thick official pages with my name printed in bold, my house address, my signature line at the bottom. Daniel leaned in and spoke softly, like you do with a frightened animal. "It's just to put everything in my name now, Ma," he said, "so we can take care of the bills, the taxes, all that stress. You don't need to worry about those things anymore." I stared at the black ink swimming on white paper. The words transfer of ownership and irrevocable stood out like bruises. My hands started to tremble. "Right here, Mama," Alina said, tapping the page with a manicured finger. "Sign here and here. We already filled in everything for you. You just need to trust us." The grandchildren were still filming. "Sign it, Nani. You're famous now." I forced a smile, but my throat burned. Famous. I felt like a wrong answer written in permanent marker. My pen hovered over the line. For a moment, the whole world went quiet. No clinking plates, no kids' laughter, no humming fridge, just my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Something inside me whispered, "Don't do it." But Daniel's hand tightened on my shoulder. "Come on, Ma," he murmured. "After everything I've done for you, you trust your own son, don't you?" And right there, on my 70th birthday, with cake crumbs on my plate and my family watching, I realized something that cut deeper than any knife. I did trust him. I trusted him more than he'd ever trusted me. My heart cracked right down the middle. I didn't sign that night. Not yet. I looked up at my son, and for the first time in my life, I truly saw him. I wish I could tell you the story ended there, that refusing to pick up that pen saved me from what came next. But that was only the beginning. People think betrayal happens in one big moment, like a storm breaking a tree in half. They don't see the years of wind first. They don't see how the roots get weaker, little by little. I wasn't always this bent old woman with shaking hands and careful eyes. Once I was just May, young wife, young mother, running around a tiny kitchen with a baby on my hip and another tugging at my sari, or later my cotton dress. My husband, Ibrahim, died when Daniel was 12, and my daughter, Lila, was 9. One heart attack, one quiet funeral, and suddenly I was both mother and father, roof and floor, everything at once. I remember sitting at the table that first night after the burial, staring at the empty chair at the head of the table. I could still smell his aftershave on the fabric. "Who will pay the school fees now?" Lila asked, her voice so small. "I will," I said, without thinking. "How?" Daniel whispered. I had no idea. But a mother doesn't answer with fear. She answers with promise. So I took whatever work came my way. I cleaned houses during the day, stitched clothes at night, and on weekends I fried samosas and sold them to neighbors. My hands were always raw from soap, my back ached, my eyes burned, but my children's uniforms were ironed, their lunchboxes were full, and their school fees were paid on time. Sometimes I'd pause at the doorway and just watch them sleeping. Lila curled up like a cat, Daniel sprawled across his mattress, one arm flung over his face. I'd listen to their peaceful breathing and whisper, "It's worth it. Every bit of it is worth it." I thought the sacrifices would bind us together forever. When Daniel got into university, it felt like winning a war. I pawned my bangles, emptied what little savings I had, and said, "Go, beta, study, make a life where you never have to struggle like this." He hugged me so tight that day I could barely breathe. "I'll buy your bangles back one day, Ma," he said. "Real gold, heavier than before. You'll see." Years passed. He graduated, got a job in finance, started wearing suits, and speaking English faster than I could understand. Lila married a kind, quiet mechanic and moved 2 cities away. She called often, but life and distance do what they always do. They stretch things thin. Daniel stayed close. At least, that's what I told myself. "Look how good he is," the aunties said. "He kept his mother with him instead of sending her away. You're lucky, May. Sons today don't do that." Lucky. It's funny how that word can taste like sugar and poison at the same time. When he married Alina, the house changed. She brought in new furniture, new curtains, new rules. "Mama, you shouldn't climb stairs too much," she'd say, moving my things into the smallest downstairs room. "We're just thinking of your health." She started handling the grocery money, the bill money, the little things. "Let us help," she'd insist, gently taking the envelope from my hand. At first, I was grateful. My knees hurt more these days. It was nice to sit while she bustled around the kitchen, reorganizing, labeling jars, fixing everything I had managed for decades. But sometimes, late at night, I'd stand at the doorway and look at the house I once ran, now full of labels I didn't write and rules I didn't make. I'd press my palm against the wall, feeling the cool paint under my fingers, and whisper, "You're still mine, right?" The house never answered. Maybe it tried. Maybe I just wasn't ready to hear it. Because while I was remembering the boy whose school fees I'd paid with blistered hands, I missed the man he was quietly becoming, and what he was planning to do with the life I'd built brick by brick. I had no idea what truth was waiting for me. Betrayal doesn't walk in like a stranger. It grows like mold in the corners you stop looking at. After the birthday papers, Daniel and Alina didn't push immediately. They were too smart for that. Instead, they started with small things. "Ma, the bank is complicated these days," Daniel said one afternoon, flipping through my passbook while I dried dishes. "All these online scams. Let me put everything on my app so I can keep an eye on it." I wiped my hands on my apron. "I've managed till now, beta." He smiled. The same smile that used to melt me when he was a boy asking for sweets. "I know, Ma, but why should you worry? Just add my name to the account. Joint account, that's all, for your safety." For my safety. Those 3 words are the most dangerous outfit control can wear. I hesitated, but Alina appeared beside him, her arm slipping through his. "Mama, our colleague's mother got scammed last month, lost everything. Please, just let Daniel help. He's so good with these things." I looked at my son, at his expensive watch, his pressed shirt, his polished shoes. I thought, I raised a capable man. I also thought, he knows more than me. I nodded. We went to the bank. I signed forms I didn't fully understand, trusting the boy who used to hold my hand crossing the road. "You're lucky," the bank manager said politely. "Not every son is this involved." Lucky again. That word kept following me like a shadow. Months passed. My pension started going straight into that joint account. Daniel insisted on setting up automatic payments to make life easier. I stopped handling cash as much. When I needed something, I'd just ask, "Daniel, I need some money for Lila's visit." "Sure, Ma, I'll transfer it." Daniel, I want to buy new curtains for the sitting room. Maybe next month, Ma. Things are tight right now. Things were always tight, but he had a new car, new phone, new watch. Work perks, he said, winking. Little by little, my world shrank to the downstairs room, my teapot, my old chair by the window. Sometimes when Alina's friends came over, I'd hear her. "Oh, Daniel and I paid for this. Yes, we're managing the whole house now. We take care of everything." I'd sit in my room, the door half closed, tracing the veins on the back of my hand. Everything she pointed at, this sofa, that painting, the dishes stacked in the cabinet, I had bought piece by piece over 40 years. But I became invisible in my own story. One evening, my card got declined at the pharmacy. Just a small purchase, blood pressure medicine and some biscuits for the neighbor's child. "Maybe the machine is not working," I told the cashier, laughing nervously. He tried again, declined. I felt heat rise in my face. "There must be some mistake," I whispered. "There's always something in there." I called Daniel from outside, my brown paper bag empty in my hand. "Don't you do that again, okay?" He hung up. "No, I love you. No, are you okay? Just instructions." I walked home slowly that day, my slippers scraping the pavement, the sky turning the color of old bruises. When I reached the front door, I stood there listening. Everyone was laughing inside. My laughter had been missing from that sound for a long time. In the kitchen, my tea had turned lukewarm. I wrapped my hands around the cup anyway, pressing my fingers to the warm side, pretending it was still hot. "Maybe I'm overreacting," I told myself. "He's just busy. Life is expensive. He knows what he's doing." But that night, when I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan, another thought slipped in, quiet as a thief. What if he knows exactly what he's doing? And that question, it wouldn't leave. It started with small forgettings. At least, that's what they told me. "Ma, remember you said you'd help with the down payment? We're counting on that money," Daniel said one Sunday, while the news hummed softly from the TV. I looked up from peeling potatoes. Down payment for what? "For the new car," he replied, like it was obvious. "We talked about this last week. You said you wanted me to be safe on the highway. A bigger car. Your idea, remember?" I searched my memory like a cluttered drawer. Had we talked about it? Maybe. My days bled into each other sometimes. The same four walls, the same routines. Perhaps I'd forgotten. I don't remember," I admitted. He frowned. "Ma, you really need to start writing things down. You're getting older." The words stung. Alina chimed in from the sink. "Mama, maybe you should see a doctor, just to check your memory. We worry about you." 2 days later, I found Daniel standing in my doorway holding some printed forms. "Ma, it's just permission for me to handle some financial decisions in case you forget things," he said lightly. "Power of attorney. It's standard. Everyone does it." "Everybody?" I whispered. "Of course, it's for your protection." Again with that word, protection. He placed the papers on my bedside table and left, humming to himself. I sat there, fingers resting on the crisp edges. My heart was doing that funny flutter it does when a storm is coming, but the sky still looks clear. Later that week, I went to see Dr. Saeed, our family doctor, alone. "Doc," I said, twisting my dupatta in my hands, "am I losing my mind?" He smiled gently. "Tell me what's happening." I told him about the forgotten conversations, the money, the way Daniel and Alina spoke slowly sometimes, as if I were a child. He asked me to remember dates, to repeat words, to draw a clock face, to tell him stories from long ago. I remembered everything. My wedding day, the date of Ibrahim's death, the color of Layla's school bag in 2nd grade. "Your memory is normal for your age, May. You're tired, yes, a little stressed, but you're not losing your mind." On the bus back home, I stared out the window, watching raindrops chase each other down the glass. If my memory was fine, then who was rewriting my reality? One afternoon, my granddaughter Noor came into my room, her school bag dragging behind her. "Nani," she whispered, closing the door softly, "did you really tell Mama you don't want to come to my school play?" I sat up. "What? Of course I want to come. I've been reminding her for weeks." Noor's eyes filled with tears. "Mama said you get too tired, that you forget things and might embarrass me. She said you didn't feel up to it." The room tilted a little. I put my hand on her cheek. "Listen to me, child. I may forget where I left my glasses sometimes, but I never forget you. I want to be there." Noor smiled, but it was small, cautious, like it didn't quite trust itself. That night, over dinner, I said, "Alina, what time is Noor's play tomorrow? I want to iron my clothes." The fork paused halfway to her mouth. "May, we talked about this," she said, eyes flat. "You said you'd rather rest. Too much noise, you said, remember?" Daniel didn't look up from his phone. I stared at them, my chest tight. In that moment, a strange thought arrived. Maybe they need me to be forgetful. I pushed my plate away. After they went to bed, I sat alone in the living room, the clock ticking too loudly, shadows stretching long across the floor. The house felt like it was holding its breath. I whispered to myself, "I know what I said. I know what I remember. I am not crazy." My own voice sounded unfamiliar. But from that night on, I started writing everything down, small notes in a cheap notebook I hid under my mattress. Conversations, amounts, dates, promises. If my memory was going to be questioned, then I would give it paper allies. I didn't know it yet, but that little notebook would become my first shield and my first weapon. I had no idea what truth was quietly writing itself between those lines. The real storm hit on a Tuesday afternoon. Funny, isn't it, how disaster doesn't check your calendar? I had gone to the bank alone. Daniel usually insisted on handling everything, but he was too busy that day, and I needed cash for some repairs in the bathroom, little things I didn't want to bother him with. The floor tiles were starting to lift. The tap dripped like it was crying in its sleep. I reached the counter and slid my passbook under the glass. "I'd like to withdraw 20,000, I said, the way I always did when I had something extra to handle. Gifts, emergencies, life. The young man typed something, stared at the screen, then frowned. "Give me a moment, Auntie." He went to another desk. Two of them stared at the computer, then at me. Their polite smiles had slipped. My palms began to sweat. He returned. "I'm sorry, Auntie, but this account is almost empty." The word empty echoed in my ears like a dropped plate. "That can't be," I whispered. "My pension goes there every month. And my little savings, they're all there." He showed me the screen. Transfers, withdrawals, online payments, large amounts, regularly, going to an account I didn't recognize. "Who has access besides you?" he asked gently. "My son," I said, my voice thinner than I'd ever heard it. He nodded, and something like pity passed over his face. On the way home, my legs felt like someone had swapped them with sticks. I had to stop twice to catch my breath. The sun was too bright, the air too thick. In my room, I locked the door and pulled out my notebook. I flipped through the pages, dates of when my pension arrived, notes about small withdrawals I'd asked Daniel for. The numbers didn't match. I sat on the edge of my bed, the mattress sagging under years of worry and sleep. "Did I do this?" I whispered to the empty room. "Did I forget taking so much out? Did I lose whole weeks? But Dr. Saeed's voice came back to me. Your memory is normal for your age. So if it wasn't me, then who? That evening, I tried to bring it up gently. Daniel, I said, when we were alone in the kitchen, I went to the bank today. They said the account is almost empty. Did something happen? He didn't even look guilty, just tired, annoyed. Ma, I told you, I've been moving money around. Investments. You always say you want us to have a better life. That's what I'm doing. But you didn't tell me, I whispered. It's my account. He sighed loudly. Come on, Ma, don't start. You said I should handle things. Now you're questioning every move I make? This is stressful enough. His words hit like slaps I couldn't see. I swallowed. I never said you could empty it. I didn't empty it. Why are you being dramatic? Money comes, money goes. Do you want me to stop helping? Is that it? Should I just let you deal with everything alone again? There it was, the hook in the honey. I thought of the years after Ibrahim died, the double shifts, the late nights, the fear. I thought of my aching knees, my weak back. No, I didn't want to go back to that, but I also didn't want to stand in front of a bank counter again and hear the word empty tied to my name. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake listening to footsteps in the hallway, to doors opening and closing, to muffled laughter from the living room where Daniel and Alina watched TV. The house no longer sounded like home. It sounded like strangers had moved in and kept the furniture. Around 3 a.m., I got up, pulled my notebook from under the mattress, and added a new line. Account almost empty. No explanation. Daniel angry when asked. I underlined it twice. My handwriting shook. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Then, very quietly, I said out loud, May, your son is lying to you. The words tasted like metal. Once you say it, you can't unsay it. And once you see the first crack, you start noticing all the others. I had no idea that my empty account was nothing compared to what else was already gone. But that was only the beginning. The turning point came in a beige envelope. No return address, just my name written clumsily. It arrived on a Thursday morning with the regular letters: electric bill, water bill, glossy supermarket flyer. I almost tossed it aside. Something stopped me. Maybe it was the way my name was spelled, careful but unfamiliar. My children know my loops and curls. This was printed, stiff. I slid it open with a butter knife. Inside was a notice from the bank. Not the branch where I kept my pension, another bank, a name I barely recognized. Reminder of overdue payment, it read. Second mortgage. Final notice before legal action. My vision blurred. I had to sit down. Second mortgage. On my house. I read it again, my heart pounding like it was trying to escape my chest. Amount due, an amount I had never seen connected to my name. Loan date, 3 years ago. Borrower, May. Surname. Cosigner and primary contact, Daniel. Surname. I felt the air leave my lungs. 3 years ago, I had been in the hospital with pneumonia, tubes in my arms, oxygen under my nose, nurses bustling in and out. I remember Daniel sitting at my bedside, holding my hand. Everything's okay, Ma, he'd said then. Just focus on breathing. I'll handle the paperwork, the hospital bills, the house stuff. Don't worry. I thought he meant insurance forms, maybe some signatures. Not this. Not a second mortgage taken without my knowledge on the house I'd spent 40 years paying off. My fingers dug into the letter, crumpling the edge. For a moment I wondered, did I sign something then? Did I put my name on a paper between coughs and IV drips? But no. My signature at the bottom was too neat, careful, done by a steady hand, not one trembling with fever. It looked like my handwriting, but it felt wrong, like someone wearing my clothes but not my scent. I took the letter to my neighbor, Mrs. Kahn, a retired school principal with sharp eyes and a softer heart. She read it quietly, her lips pressed together. "May," she said slowly, "when did you take this loan?" "I didn't," I whispered. "I swear on my husband's grave, I didn't." She put her hand on mine. "Then someone used your name." We sat in silence, the wall clock ticking too loudly. "Come with me tomorrow," she said finally. "There's a legal aid clinic near the mosque. They help elders with this kind of thing. You don't have to face this alone." At home, I tucked the letter carefully into my notebook, smoothing it like fragile skin. That night, over dinner, Daniel laughed as he told a story about his office. Alina scrolled on her phone, showing him some fancy house on a property app. "Look at this," she said. "If we sell this old place, we can easily afford something like that in the new development. Closer to good schools, better area." Daniel smirked. "Once everything's in my name, we'll see." My fork froze halfway to my mouth. "Sell this place?" I asked, my voice quiet. "Oh, Ma, don't look so scared," he said quickly. "We're just talking. In a few years, if your health gets worse, we'll move you to a good care home. You'll love it. Friends your age, activities, nurses." "A home?" I repeated. "Away from here?" Alina smiled too brightly. "Mama, you'll be safer there, and we'll visit every week. You won't have to climb stairs or worry about anything." I looked around. The walls I had painted, the door frames I had decorated, the window where I had stood waiting for my children to come home from school. "A care home," murmured I. Like a guest?" Daniel shrugged. "It's how things are done now, Ma. Don't be dramatic. Anyway, we'll talk when the time comes." But from the corner, Noor was watching. Her eyes were wide. She understood more than they realized. The next day, at the legal aid clinic, a young lawyer with tired eyes and kind hands spread my documents out on the desk. My passbook, the second mortgage notice, some old hospital papers. He studied them quietly. "Mrs. May," he said finally, "I need you to be very honest with me. Did you ever sign paperwork giving your son full power over your property and finances?" My mind went back to the birthday folder, the papers I had refused to sign. "No," I said. "I almost did, but I didn't." He nodded slowly. "Well," he said, tapping one form, "this signature here says you did, 2 years ago, and this one on the mortgage 3 years ago, and this one on a credit card application last year." He looked up at me. "Someone has been signing for you. A lot." My stomach turned to ice. He leaned forward. "Do you have anyone you trust? A daughter, a relative, someone who can stand beside you in this? Because what I'm about to tell you, it's going to hurt." I thought of Lila, far away, of Noor, too young, of Mrs. Kahn watching my trembling hands. I straightened my back, feeling every year of my age and every ounce of my strength. "Tell me," I said. "I'd rather know the truth than live in a lie." He took a breath. "Your son has been using your name, your house, and your accounts to build his life, and if we don't act soon, you might lose everything." I felt something inside me break, and something else harden. The mother in me cried. The woman in me woke up. I thought losing my savings was the worst that could happen. I was wrong. What came next changed the entire direction of my life. When you spent your whole life trusting someone, learning to doubt them feels like learning to walk again, with knees that don't quite work. The lawyer helped me file preliminary complaints, very quietly. "We need proof," he said. "Strong proof, not just forgery on paper, but evidence of intent, of coercion, manipulation, plans." I nodded, but my hands were shaking. "May," he added gently, "don't confront him yet. If he realizes you know, he might move assets, sell the house faster, or pressure you to sign something new. So I went home and did what I've always done when life hit harder than I knew what to do with. I made tea. I watched the steam rise from the cup, wrapping my fingers around the heat. Outside, the sky was soft and gray. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked, a motorbike passed, a neighbor's child laughed. Life went on, like my world hadn't just tilted. That evening, Noor slipped into my room again. "Nani," she whispered, "why were you at the law office? I saw you from the bus window. Mama said you went to the clinic for your knees." Children see more than we think. I looked at her carefully. "How do you know it was a law office?" She sat on the edge of my bed. "I Googled it," she said, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "I worry about you, Nani. You look smaller lately." Smaller. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Noor, my child," I said quietly, "if you ever hear your parents talking about me, planning something about this house, or sending me away, will you tell me, even if they say you shouldn't?" Her eyes filled with tears. "They already do," she whispered. Then she pulled out her phone. "Please don't be mad," she said. "I recorded some things. I didn't know what to do with them. It didn't feel right." She opened a voice note. Daniel's voice filled the room, tinny but unmistakable. "Once she signs, we're done," he said. "We can renovate, sell, whatever. I'm tired of tiptoeing around her feelings. She's had her life. This is our turn." Alina's voice followed, a sharp edge under artificial sweetness. "Just be careful. She gets emotional. Use the safety angle. Old people love feeling taken care of." They laughed together. Another recording, another conversation. "If she doesn't sign, the bank will push foreclosure anyway," Daniel said. "We'll say she's confused. The hospital records will help. Most judges believe the children." My own son, planning how to use my illness against me, how to use the law to push me out of my own house. I felt nausea crawl up my throat. Noor's hand found mine. "I'm sorry, Nani," she sobbed. "I didn't know what to do. Mama keeps saying you forget things, but you don't forget me. You remember all my stories, so I knew she was lying." I pulled her into my arms. For the first time in months, I cried with someone instead of alone. "You did the right thing," I whispered into her hair. "You protected me when no one else did. You're a better daughter to me than my own son is a son." That night, I couldn't sleep again, but this wakefulness felt different, not helpless, sharp. I took an old scarf and stitched a tiny pocket inside, just big enough to hold my phone. If Daniel and Alina liked talking so much, I would let them, but the house would listen with me this time. In the days that followed, I moved slower, spoke less, kept my eyes lowered like a tired old woman whose thoughts were foggy. Inside, I was counting every word. "Ma, you remember you promised to sign next week, right?" Daniel would say. I'd blink. "You tell me, beta. I can't keep up with all your smart plans," I'd murmur. He'd laugh. "Exactly why you need me." My phone, hidden in my pocket, quietly recorded. Alina would sigh loudly to her friends on the phone. "Honestly, once the house is in our name, we'll have options. Right now, everything is stuck because it's old-fashioned under her. Honestly, caring for elders is like carrying a stone around your neck." Another recording, another stone on my heart. I brought every file, every note, every recording to the lawyer. His eyes widened as he listened. This is more than enough to show exploitation, coercion, and fraud. We can stop the sale. We can even open a criminal case if you're strong enough for that fight. Strong enough. I looked at my reflection in his office window. Wrinkled face, tired eyes, thinning hair tied in a simple bun. "I have buried a husband," I said softly. "I have worked 3 jobs to raise children who now want to throw me away like old furniture. I have faced loneliness that sits on your chest at night and refuses to move. You tell me, young man, what do you think I am not strong enough for?" He nodded, almost like a bow. "Then we'll fight," he said. I walked home that evening with my shoulders a little straighter, my steps a little surer. Outside the house, I paused and put my hand on the front door, feeling the familiar grain of the wood. "This time," I whispered to it, "I'm protecting you, and you're going to protect me." Because soon, very soon, my son would call another family meeting, and I would walk into it not as a confused old woman, but as a mother who knew the trap and was ready to spring it shut. What came next would finally show my son who I really was. It happened on a Sunday, like most important family things seem to. The house smelled of biryani and bleach. Alina always deep cleaned before guests came, as if dust was the only shame in our lives. "Lila's coming too," Daniel said casually over breakfast. "It's time we all sat down and made a proper plan for you, Ma, for your security." Lila, my daughter. They'd kept her mostly out of things, feeding her carefully measured stories over the phone. "She's so forgetful now," they'd told her. "We're handling everything, don't worry." Now they wanted her here, to witness my agreement, to be part of the performance. In my room, I took my notebook, my stack of copies, and my trembling courage. I slid my phone into its secret pocket and turned the recorder on. "Miss Milla," I whispered to myself in the mirror, "you raised these children. You can face them too." Lila arrived with her husband and 2 little boys, arms full of tiffin boxes like always. "Ummi," she cried, hugging me so tightly my bones complained. "Why didn't you tell me you've been so tired, so stressed?" I looked at her face, creased with worry and guilt, and knew she'd been told only half the story. "There are things I didn't know how to say," I replied. "Maybe today we will all hear some truths." We gathered around the dining table, the same table where I'd once cut paper stars for their school projects and ironed their uniforms at midnight. Daniel cleared his throat, looking more like a manager than a son. "Okay," he said, "we all know Ma is getting older. We want her safe, comfortable, and taken care of, right?" Everyone nodded. Alina placed a fresh folder on the table, similar to the one from my birthday, but thicker. "These are the documents the lawyer prepared: power of attorney, transfer of the house, confirmation that we will be responsible for her care and all decisions. It's standard." I watched Lila's face. She shifted uncomfortably. "Why everything in your name only?" she asked quietly. "Why not shared between us?" Daniel laughed. "Because I live with her. I handle everything already. You've got your own life there. Practicality, Lila. It's not about greed." Not about greed. I almost smiled at that. Alina slid a pen toward me. "Sign, Mama," she said, sugar dripping from her voice. "Do it for your peace." The room went very still. I looked at each of them one by one. Noor sat in the corner, pretending to scroll her phone, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. Lila's husband was staring at the table, sensing trouble but not sure where to place it. Daniel tapped the table impatiently. "Ma, we don't have all day." I picked up the pen. My hand shook a little, not from fear this time, but from the weight of what I was about to do. "You say this is for my safety, for my security." Daniel nodded. "Of course." "For my protection?" "Exactly." I took a deep breath. "Good," I said. "Then you won't mind if the people already helping to protect me look this over first." Alina's smile faltered. "What people?" There was a knock on the door, right on cue. Mrs. Kahn stepped in, followed by the young lawyer from the clinic and another man in plain clothes who showed Daniel a badge. From the corner of my eye, I saw Noor sit up straighter. "Ma, what is this?" Daniel snapped, standing so fast his chair screeched against the floor. The sound cut through the room like a blade. "These are my guests," I said calmly, even as my heart hammered. "Just like you, they're here to help explain some papers, too." The officer placed a folder on the table. "Mr. Daniel, we need to ask you some questions about financial transactions made in your mother's name, and about a second mortgage, forged signatures, and attempts to transfer property through coercion." Alina went pale. Lila's hand flew to her mouth. Daniel laughed, too loud, too sharp. "This is ridiculous. Ma, what have you done? Who put these ideas in your head? She's confused. She's—" "Enough," I said quietly. Everyone turned to me. I opened my notebook and spread the pages like wings, dated entries, careful notes, taped in letters. "I may be old," I said, voice shaking but clear, "but I am not confused. I have written down every lie you told me, Daniel, every don't worry that meant don't look, every for your safety that meant for my benefit." I slid the second mortgage notice across the table. "You used my illness to sign this. You took my house and my name to the bank, and you hoped I would never see the bill." His jaw clenched. "You don't understand how money works. I was helping yourself," I cut in. "To my house, to my savings, to my life." The lawyer placed a small recorder on the table and pressed play. Daniel's own voice filled the room, bragging about how once I signed, they were done, about my hospital records would prove I was confused if I refused. Alina began to cry silently. Lila stared at her brother like she'd never seen him before. "Daniel, did you really say those things?" He was breathing hard now, cornered. "You all think I'm the villain. You think money falls from the sky? I have a family to think about. She's one old woman and we're four. Do the math." One old woman. The son I fed when there was barely enough food for me. The officer stepped forward. "Sir, we'll need you to come with us to answer some questions downtown. You have the right to—" Alina shouted, "You can't arrest him. This is a family matter." The officer's eyes were firm. "Ma'am, fraud is not a family matter. It's a criminal one." I felt strangely calm. I reached for my tea, now cold, the cup rattling just slightly against the saucer. I held it between my palms, letting its faint warmth anchor me. Daniel looked at me one last time as they guided him toward the door. His eyes weren't sorry. Not really. They were angry that he'd been caught. "You ruined everything," he hissed. I met his gaze. "No, Beta," I said softly. "You ruined it the day you chose greed over your own mother." The door closed behind him. The house, my house, was quiet. Too quiet. Inside my chest, something unclenched, like a fist finally letting go after years of gripping pain. I thought that was the end. But karma? Karma was just getting started. I had no idea how far the consequences would reach. In the weeks that followed, my house turned into something else. Not just walls and windows, but a witness. There were visits, officers, bank representatives, social workers, papers to sign, statements to give, questions to answer. "How did you not know?" some asked silently with their eyes, though their mouths stayed polite. I answered the question before they could ask it. "Because I am a mother," I'd say gently, "and a mother's love is a very bright light. Sometimes it blinds her to the shadows behind it." The bank placed an immediate hold on the foreclosure process. The second mortgage was flagged as fraudulent. Investigations began into all the accounts Daniel had opened in my name. Alina stayed in the house at first, moving like a ghost, eyes red, voice small. "I didn't know it was this bad, Mama," she whispered to me one night in the kitchen. "Daniel said you agreed, that you wanted everything in our name. That you were just pretending not to remember later. I stirred sugar into my tea slowly. And you never asked me? I said. She looked down, ashamed. No. I nodded. Then you knew enough. She started to cry. Will you kick us out? I looked at the girl who had married my son, who had called me Mama while quietly moving my things into smaller spaces. I won't kick my grandchildren out, I said. Where you go is your choice, but this house will not be stolen from me. Eventually, she took the children and went to her mother's. I didn't ask her to. I didn't beg her to stay either. Sometimes justice is not loud. It's simply not chasing after those who chose to walk away. Lila came more often now. She would arrive with bags of groceries, her boys tumbling into the house like small storms. Ami, I am so sorry, she kept saying. I should have listened better. I should have asked more questions. I held her face between my palms. You believed the best of your brother, I said, just like I did. That is not a crime. That is a kindness. He turned it into a weapon. That is on him. At night, when the house settled into silence, the loneliness was heavy. It sat on the bed with me, pulling at the blankets. I'd look at the empty doorways where Daniel used to appear with quick hugs and easy jokes. I'd remember his little boy legs swinging from that very chair, his hand slipping into mine as we crossed the street. Grief doesn't disappear just because a person is guilty. You mourn the version of them that existed before the greed. The legal process took time. Daniel lost his job when the fraud investigation became public. The bank pressed charges. The state opened a case for elder financial abuse. The same neighbors who once bragged that I was lucky to live with my son now lowered their voices when they said his name. Such a shame, they whispered. How could a child do that to his own mother? I heard them from my window. I didn't feel proud, just tired. Newer came more often now. She would arrive with bags of groceries, her boys tumbling into the house like small storms. Do you hate my dad? She asked quietly once. I took a long breath. I hate what he did, I said, but hate is heavy. I'm already carrying enough, so I put it down when I can. She nodded slowly. I don't know how to feel. You don't have to decide today, I told her. You are allowed to love parts of someone and be angry at other parts. That is what being human is. Just remember, you never have to repeat their mistakes to prove you belong to them. Her eyes shone. As months passed, small kindnesses started appearing, like wildflowers through cracked concrete. Mrs. Khan would leave containers of food by my door. A young man from the mosque came to fix the broken tap for free. The lawyer refused extra payment, saying, "You already paid enough." Karma doesn't always arrive as lightning. Sometimes it comes as people who choose not to become your next wound. The court eventually ruled that the second mortgage was invalid, forged without my knowledge. The bank absorbed the loss rather than publicly fight an elder abuse case. My house was safe. My pension was rerouted into a new account, this time with Lila as the emergency contact, but no joint access. We both agreed on that. The fraud charges against Daniel moved slowly but steadily. His lawyer tried to paint him as a good son who made mistakes. The recordings, the forged signatures, the pattern of withdrawals told a different story. The judge listened. The system, for once, leaned toward the mother. But even as those slow wheels of justice turned, the deepest work was not happening in courtrooms or banks. It was happening inside me, in the quiet mornings when I made tea for one and realized I wasn't crying anymore, in the afternoons when I sat by the window, sunlight on my hands, and felt, not happy maybe, but peaceful, in the evenings when I picked up the phone, not to beg my children to visit, but to simply say, I'm okay. I thought I'd lost everything, but slowly, painfully, I was finding something I never really had before, myself. I didn't know it then, but the truest justice wasn't just in keeping my house or seeing my son finally face consequences. It was still coming, in a form I never expected. The last time I saw Daniel, he wasn't in our house or a courtroom. He was in a small, gray visitor's room with plastic chairs and a smell of disinfectant and regret. Noor had begged me. "Nani, please," she said. "He keeps asking about you. He says he wants to apologize." I hesitated for days. Then Dr. Saeed said something that stuck with me. "Closure is not for him, May. It's for you. Go only if it will help you put this down." So I went. He looked older, just a little, lines around his eyes that weren't there before. The orange uniform didn't suit him. He'd always liked fitted shirts, polished shoes. For a moment, my heart did that stupid mother thing. It remembered him as a baby, as a boy with jam on his face. Then I remembered the bank, the recordings, the envelope. "Ma," he whispered, sitting across from me. His hands were cuffed. I folded my own hands in my lap so he wouldn't see them tremble. "Why am I here, Daniel?" I asked quietly. He swallowed. "To say I'm sorry." Silence stretched between us like an old, frayed rope. "What are you sorry for?" I asked. He stared at the table. "For letting things get out of hand, for hurting you." I waited. He didn't say for stealing. He didn't say for lying. He didn't say for treating you like a burden instead of a blessing. "I never meant for it to go this far," he added. There it was, the song of those who only regret being caught. I looked at him for a long time, really looked. "Do you remember," I said slowly, "the day your father died?" His eyes flicked up, surprised. "You were 12, I continued. "You sat at the foot of our bed and said, 'Don't cry, Ma, I'll take care of you when I grow up.'" He blinked. "I remember," he muttered. "You did take care of me," I said. "You brought me tea when my hands shook too badly to hold the kettle. You walked me to the bus stop when my knees wouldn't hurry. You fixed the light in the hallway when it flickered. You did many good things." He seemed taken aback. Maybe he expected only anger. I took a breath. "And then you forgot who you were," I said. "You traded that boy for a man who saw his mother as a stepping stone, as collateral, as a means to a nicer car, a bigger house, a different life." Tears slid down his face. "Ma, I raised my hand. "I'm not here to punish you," I said softly. "The law is doing that. I am here to put down what I've been carrying." He sniffed. "Do you hate me?" I thought about it. "I don't hate you," I answered finally. "Hate would mean you still live inside my heart, turning everything to fire. I have moved you out of there. You live in my past now, not my chest." He flinched. "What does that mean?" he whispered. "It means I forgive you as much as I can, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. I will never trust you again. You will never have access to my home, my money, my decisions. That door is closed, but I wish, truly, that one day you remember the boy you were and try to be him again for your children." We sat in silence. A guard called time. As I stood, Daniel reached out instinctively, then stopped when the chain pulled. "Ma," he said, voice breaking, Will you ever visit again?" I looked at him. "No," I said gently. "This goodbye is the one I should have said the day you chose greed over me. I'm just late in delivering it." I turned and walked away. With each step toward the exit, I felt lighter. Outside, the sun was too bright. I shaded my eyes with my hand. Noor was waiting on the bench, twisting the strap of her bag. "How was he?" she asked. "He's still your father," I said. "Nothing can change that. But remember, my child, loving someone doesn't mean agreeing with their wrongs. You can visit if you need to, or you can step back. That choice is yours. Just don't let his mistakes decide your worth." She nodded slowly, tears shining. Then she slipped her arm through mine. "Let's go home, Nani," she whispered. Home. My house, my name on the deed, my key in my own hand. That evening, I made 2 cups of tea and sat by the window with Noor. Rain tapped softly against the glass. Somewhere, a neighbor's TV played an old song I knew by heart. "I used to think," I said quietly, "that my children were my whole identity, that if they were happy, I had done well, if they were unhappy, I had failed, that everything about me was measured by them." "And now?" she asked. "Now," I replied, "I know I am still May when they disappoint me. I am still worthy of respect, of safety, of kindness. My sacrifices were real, even if they forgot them. My love was real, even if they misused it." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "What if you hurt me one day?" she asked in a small voice. I smiled sadly. "You will. That's what families do. We step on each other's hearts sometimes without meaning to. But if you own your mistakes, if you say, 'I was wrong and I will do better,' then love can heal. It cannot heal what people refuse to admit." We sat in comfortable silence. The tea cooled between our palms. The rain softened. I thought of all the mothers watching this, all the aunties and grandmothers and quiet, tired women who have given and then been told they are too much, too old, too forgetful. If you are one of them, hear me now. You are not a burden. You are not a stepping stone. You are not a wallet with hands. You are the tree that stood through storms so others could rest in your shade. If your children honor that, cherish them. If they don't, protect yourself. Set boundaries, ask questions, keep records, believe your own memory, and above all, remember that loving someone does not mean handing them the knife to cut you with. As for me, I live quietly now. I grow herbs in small pots on my windowsill. I teach Noor how to make my husband's favorite curry. I visit Lila and let her fuss over me. I laugh sometimes, real laughter, the kind that comes from the stomach and not from politeness. I sleep with my door locked, not because I'm afraid, but because I've learned I'm allowed to keep myself safe. Karma did its work. It took time. It moved slowly like an old woman climbing stairs, but it arrived, not as revenge, but as truth uncovered, lies exposed, and a mother finally standing up for herself. If you've stayed with me till now, thank you for listening, for bearing witness, for letting an old woman's story sit in your heart for a while. If my story has touched you, please like this video and subscribe, not for numbers, for me, so I know there are people out there who still believe elders deserve respect, protection, and love without conditions. This is Auntie May, just May, signing off. And if you're sitting in a quiet room tonight, wondering whether your pain matters, whether your sacrifices counted, whether you have the right to say enough, listen to an old woman. You do. You always did. You always will. What came next for me was not a perfect happy ending, but something better, a peaceful one.